In addition to the Christmas cracker that you might have made for the festive table, how about a candle mat? You can have it with or without the candle. The choice is yours. You can make this candle mat any size you like. Now, the neat thing about this particular candle mat is it doesn't require a special template. It has only got 8 sections, not the 12, which is the one you may have made previously. And it can, as I say, be any size. So that's quite a large one. There's a medium-sized one. And there's a thing considerably smaller. Does it have to be in Christmas fabrics? No, it doesn't. You could actually, in fact, use this as a decoration, as a mat anywhere. It could go on the lid of a box. It's a method of folding fabric, and all you need is a square of paper to begin with. So decide on the size of your mat. Cut a piece of paper that size. So this piece of paper will represent the size of the squares we are going to use for the candle mat. Having got your piece of paper, seriously complicated this, you're going to fold your piece of paper in half, open it out, bring one side to touch the middle, bring the adjacent side to touch the middle, and you will get a kite shape. Once you've got your kite shape, we're going to cut a little bit off the end of the kite. Now, depending on how much you cut off, this will affect the size of the hole you have in the center. So if you only cut a little tiny weeny piece off, you will have a very small middle. If you cut a much larger piece off, you'll have a very bigger middle. So just perhaps fold a bit up, and your center is going to be 8 times that, because you will want 8 of these squares. So I'm just going to cut that bit off the bottom and open it up. This will be the template, flatten it off there, that you are going to use for your Style-Vil Fix. And I'm using Style-Vil Fix. It's a really super product because it has a fusible side one side. It is a lovely, squishy, gives you a really nice, rich, luxuriant effect to that. Now, having got your squares of Style-Vil Fix, which need to be exactly the same size as your piece of paper initially, trim the little bit off the bottom so the Style-Vil Fix is the same dimension as your paper template. Do not lose this because you're going to actually need it in a short while. Having got our pieces of Style-Vil Fix, you'll want 2 layers of fabric. You could use any colour fabric you like. Decide on which one you're going to press it to. Be careful, if you've got a directional fabric, to get the Style-Vil Fix in the right direction. This will be the top of the candle mat. On the back of the fabric, put the Style-Vil Fix so you've got the glue side down. You can tell it's the glue side because it's slightly rough. And you're going to press it in place. Having pressed it to the back of one of my fabrics, just cut roughly round. More is better than less in this particular case. Once you cut roughly round that shape, layer it onto a second piece of fabric and cut the second piece of fabric to approximately the same shape. This needs to be rough and ready because you are going to sew round it and then trim it back properly. Once you've got the 2 fabrics together, you're going to stitch. We're going to leave this end open and you're going to sew all the way round the remaining sides of this square. But the but is you will sew outside the Style-Vil Fix. Do not sew through it. And when you've done that, you're going to trim really close back to the stitching line, except down the bottom here. So it will resemble this. So can you see I've stitched outside the shape, not through the Style-Vil Fix, but without it. And indeed, if you're a fraction away, you're going to allow for the thickness of this so that when you turn the shape right side out, you won't get it buckling on the corners. Always leave a bit extra down the bottom there because it's much easier to turn it through and tuck in a little bit extra rather than having a very tiny amount. Having done this, you're going to turn it through the hole and then mend the little hole. So here we have one we've turned through the hole. There is the bottom that I'm going to tuck in and I'm going to stitch along there. You can stitch along there reasonably well because it is going to show. Once you stitched along there, we're going to go back to our paper template and you're going to be needing that again in a minute. Right, so I've stitched across the bottom there and then I've top stitched just inside the edge all the way around. This is an optional extra, you don't have to do that. Now you're going to need to repeat this 7 more times. So I want 7 of these that look identical. Return to that paper template, fold the sides in on the paper template and place it on the right side of the square. Now this will be the piece that will be on the top, will show here. It's the underside that's going to make the arms that will fold in. So make sure you've got it on the right side of the fabric. Using a pen, a pencil, a chalk marker, it matters not. You're going to draw exactly beside the edge of the template. This line is not going to show. Make sure you draw beside the template. When you've done that, repeat that on every single one of the remaining 7 shapes. When you've drawn the lines on all 8 shapes, you're going to take 2 of them, put them wrong sides together or back to back, and we're going to sew them together on the line. Now this is where you need to know your right hand from your left hand. You're only going to do the stitching on the right hand side. So I've got a pair of them back to back and I'm just going to stitch along there. Top tip, start in a little bit, reverse to the edge, sew across to the bottom and sew back. So your thread starts and endings are within the seam and it'll look something like this when you've done. When you've done that to one set of 2, you're going to repeat exactly the same thing another 3 times, so you end up with 4 sets exactly the same. You're then going to join the sets of 2 together to make a set of 4. And then we're going to complete the design by joining both sets of 4 together to make the entire candle mat. Having sewn all 8 together, all you need to do now is take opposite flaps and just catch them together with a bead or a couple of stitches. The choice really is yours. So take opposite sides, stitch them together. Notice on this one, I've just added a small bead as I've sewn them together. And then I've nipped together the end of the shapes. So having stitched those together, I then just caught that bit. You can do with it what you like. Now, play on. Why do you have to have totally pointed edges to your squares? There's no reason why you couldn't have rounded your template off and had round ones. Now, if you don't cut a little piece of your template in the center, you're going to end up with no hole in the middle at all and end up with something like that. This is a very playable with design. If you don't fancy it that size, then why not do it really small? But consider, if you're going to use it for the Christmas table, take perhaps a candle, put it onto something, maybe a silver plate. There's your candle mat with or without the rounded edges. Candle goes in the middle. What could be better? Then you can dress it up with some Christmas crackers to go round the table.